one of the characteristic features of all living things. It is an essential life process which not only helps in survival of species but also helps in continuity of that race. Have you ever wondered how two individuals produce offspring who has genetic characteristics from both the parents? Sexual reproduction is a biological process by which organisms create descendants through the combination of genetic material. It is produced by union of two gametes, that is, male and female gametes. As humans are unisexual, means male and females are separate, and each has its own kind of reproductive organs, reproductive ducts, and accessory structures. The basic organs in the human's sexual reproduction are the gonads. The sperm and the ovum are highly specialized haploid cells which are formed in male and female body respectively. Sexual reproduction is an ancient evolutionary tool. Evolution is thus seen as a series of changes that took place during sexual reproduction. Thus, the significance of sexual reproduction in the development of the human, genetically as well as socially, is profound.
Hello students. In sexual reproduction, new individuals are produced by the fusion of sperm and ova to form a diploid zygote. The sperm and the ovum are highly specialized haploid cells which are formed in male and female body respectively. The union of sperm and egg is an extraordinary cell fusion event that gives rise to an original individual and triggers a very sophisticated developmental program. This specialization in turn required cooperation between the male and female for species survival. The cooperative combination of the two then provides optimum species. Reproduction in humans starts with male and female individuals. The basic organs in human sexual reproduction are gonads. ਅੱਜ ਦੇ ਇਸ ਪਾਠ ਵਿੱਚ ਅਸੀਂ ਫੀਮੇਲ ਰਿਪਰੋਡਕਟਿਵ ਸਿਸਟਮ ਦੀ ਸੰਰਚਨਾ ਬਾਰੇ ਵਿਚਾਰ ਕਰਾਂਗੇ। ਇਸ ਸਿਸਟਮ ਵਿੱਚ ਕਿਹੜੇ-ਕਿਹੜੇ ਅੰਗ ਆਉਂਦੇ ਹਨ? ਫੀਮੇਲ ਰਿਪਰੋਡਕਟਿਵ ਸਿਸਟਮ ਦੇ ਵੱਖ-ਵੱਖ ਅੰਗ ਕਿਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਦੇ ਲੱਗਦੇ ਹਨ? ਇਹ ਕਿਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਕੰਮ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਨ? ਅੱਜ ਅਸੀਂ ਇਸ ਸਭ ਦੇ ਬਾਰੇ ਜਾਣਾਂਗੇ। ਪਰ ਸਭ ਤੋਂ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਮੈਂ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ ਅੱਜ ਦੇ ਪਾਠ ਦੇ ਲਰਨਿੰਗ ਆਬਜੈਕਟਿਵਸ ਸ਼ੇਅਰ ਕਰ ਲਵਾਂ।
On completion of this topic, learners will be able to describe morphology of female reproductive system, draw a labeled structure of female reproductive system, describe oogenesis, discuss the process of ovulation.
ਫੀਮੇਲ ਰਿਪਰੋਡਕਟਿਵ ਸਿਸਟਮ ਦੇ ਅੰਗ ਦੋ ਹਿੱਸੇ ਬਾਹਰੀ ਅਤੇ ਅੰਦਰੂਨੀ ਭਾਗਾਂ ਵਿੱਚ ਵੰਡੇ ਹੋਏ ਹਨ। ਫੀਮੇਲ ਰਿਪਰੋਡਕਟਿਵ ਸਿਸਟਮ ਦੇ ਅੰਦਰੂਨੀ ਅੰਗ ਪੈਲਵਿਕ ਕੈਵਿਟੀ ਵਿੱਚ ਪਏ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਹਨ ਅਤੇ ਇਨ੍ਹਾਂ ਅੰਗਾਂ ਵਿੱਚ ਵਜਾਈਨਾ, ਯੂਟਰਸ, ਫੈਲੋਪੀਅਨ ਟਿਊਬਸ ਅਤੇ ਓਵਰੀਜ਼ ਦਾ ਇੱਕ ਜੋੜਾ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਹੈ। The reproductive system of human female produces ova, receives the sperms released during sexual intercourse, houses and nourishes the developing embryo in the uterus, and produces milk for the newborn. This system has many-fold functions. This system is located in the pelvic region. Let us see major organs of the female reproductive system.
You are looking at the structure of female reproductive system. These are a pair of ovaries. They produce ova and female sex hormones estrogen and progesterone. Each ovary is 2 to 4 centimeter long. This is how an ovary looks like. The ovary opens in fimbriae, which receives ovum every month at the time of ovulation. Next, this tube-like structure is fallopian tube. Beginning of it is known as infundibulum, next part is ampulla, and this narrow long part is known as isthmus. A fallopian tube is a narrow tube that is attached to the upper part of the uterus. This triangular shaped area shown here is uterus. It serves as a tunnel for the ova to travel from the ovaries to the uterus. Conception, that is, the fertilization of an egg by a sperm, normally occurs in the fallopian tubes. Uterus is surrounded by a thick wall known as uterine fundus. This uterine cavity acts as the incubator for the developing young one. This thick layered uterine wall is made of 3 layers. Perimetrium on outermost side, middle is myometrium, and endometrium on innermost side. Uterus opens into vagina through cervix. This narrow passage is known as cervical canal. It opens into vagina. The vagina is a canal that joins the cervix, the lower part of the uterus, to the outside of the body. It is also known as the birth canal. It is easily stretched. The opening of the vagina, called the vaginal orifice, is partly covered by a membrane called hymen.
Apart from all these organs which we saw here, female reproductive system also include external genitalia like mons pubis, labia majora, labia minora, hymen and clitoris. The external genitalia are collectively called vulva. Mons pubis is a cushion of fatty tissue located to the front of the vulva, and it is covered by skin and pubic hair. The labia majora enclose and protect the other external reproductive organs, and it contains sweat and oil secreting glands. Labia minora surrounds the openings to the vagina. Clitoris is a small, sensitive protrusion which is covered by a fold of skin called the prepuce. Clitoris is very sensitive to stimulation. A functional mammary gland is also a part of female reproductive system. These glands are present in pair and contain variable amount of fat, making them glandular in shape. Let us see cross-sectional view of these mammary lobes.
This is diagrammatic representation of mammary gland. Glandular tissue is divided into 15 to 20 mammary lobes. Lots of fat cells surround these mammary lobes. Each mammary lobe consists of cluster of cells known as alveoli. These cells of alveoli secrete milk for a newborn baby. This milk is brought towards the tip through mammary ducts. Several ducts join to form a larger duct known as ampulla. Ampulla is further connected to lactiferous ducts through which milk is sucked out. Each breast has a nipple in its mid which is surrounded by a circular, pigmented area called areola. Areola is the region of breast which is deep pink to brown in color.
We have all at one point or another wondered from where we came. Gone are the days when the marvels of human conception and fetal development were hidden from view. The making of a human life involves some important events which are very well studied now. Gametogenesis is a process through which testes in male and ovaries in female produce gametes from primary germ cells. Gametogenesis is of two types: spermatogenesis and oogenesis. Spermatogenesis leads to the formation of sperms and oogenesis leads to the formation of ovum. Let us try to explore the mysteries of oogenesis.
Oogenesis. In female, maturation of oogonia from primitive germ cells start even before birth. During development of a genetic female, primordial germ cells undergo mitotic division, and with the result of these repeated mitotic divisions, oogonia are produced. These cells have diploid number of chromosomes. Oogonia keeps on dividing rapidly from the 2nd to the 7th month of gestation to form roughly millions of germ cells. After repeated divisions, some of these differentiate into primary oocyte. One cell in the egg nest grows and becomes primary oocyte, and rest of the cells in the same egg nest lose the potentiality to divide and form a nutritive follicular epithelium around it. The oocyte with single layer of granulosa cells is known as primordial follicle. This follicular epithelium can develop further from the primordial follicle via several follicle stages. And when a female fetus is about 25 weeks old, these primary oocytes enter the first meiotic division. They do not finish their meiotic division and remain arrested at this stage until puberty. Shortly before birth, all the fetal oocytes in the female ovary have attained this stage. At birth, a female baby has as many as 2 million follicles, but 50% of these are atretic.
Hormonal control. ਬਚਪਨ ਵਿੱਚ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾਤਰ oocytes atretic ਹੋ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਹਨ, ਭਾਵ ਉਹ ਡੀਜੈਨਰੇਟ ਹੋ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਹਨ। ਜਦੋਂ ਇੱਕ ਫੀਮੇਲ ਪਿਊਬਰਟੀ ਦੀ ਸਟੇਜ ਤੇ ਪਹੁੰਚਦੀ ਹੈ ਤਾਂ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਸੰਖਿਆ ਕਾਫੀ ਘਟ ਜਾਂਦੀ ਹੈ। ਪਿਊਬਰਟੀ ਉਹ ਅਵਸਥਾ ਹੈ ਜਦੋਂ ਇੰਟਰਨਲ ਰੀਪਰੋਡਕਟਿਵ ਆਰਗਨਸ ਮੈਚੁਰ ਹੋ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਹਨ। ਇਸ ਸਟੇਜ ਨੂੰ ਮਿਨਾਰਕ ਵੀ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਹਨ। ਇਹ ਚਾਈਲਡ ਬੀਅਰਿੰਗ ਦੀ ਅਵਸਥਾ ਦੀ ਸ਼ੁਰੂਆਤ ਹੈ। At puberty, ovaries are stimulated by the secretion of gonadotrophin from the anterior pituitary. Hypothalamus starts secreting luteinizing hormones, which further stimulates anterior pituitary to secrete follicle stimulating hormone. This hormone promotes maturation of ovarian follicles and secretion of estrogen, leading to ovulation. Let us see what changes take place when an ovarian follicle matures into a Graafian follicle.
The primary oocyte, still in the diplotin stage, begins to grow, follicular epithelium proliferate and produce granulosa cells to form secondary follicle. As the development continues, fluid-filled spaces appear between granulosa cells. Merging of these spaces forms the antrum and follicle is called tertiary follicle. Granulosa cells surrounding the oocyte remain intact and form the cumulus oophorus. The follicle is known as Graafian follicle. With the beginning of adolescence, each month, many such follicles begin to develop, but usually one reaches full maturity. In this mature follicle, the primary oocyte resumes meiosis, that is, leading to the formation of two daughter cells of unequal size, each with haploid number of chromosomes. One cell, the secondary oocyte, receives most of the cytoplasm. The other cell is first polar body receives a little. In a Graafian follicle, the fluid-filled cavity increases to the point that the follicle wall balloons out on the surface of the ovary and bursts, releasing the secondary oocyte surrounded by zona pellucida and follicular cells. The release of a secondary oocyte from a Graafian follicle is known as ovulation.
Students, there is a great significance of oogenesis in life of organisms in which it occurs. In fact, during meiosis, first crossing over takes place which bring about variation. Let us see how. You know, Graafian follicle formed after tertiary follicles obtain large size shortly before ovulation, up to diameter 2.5 mm through a special spurt of growth. When the ovulation takes place, the secondary oocyte remains at meiosis II stage with spindle formation of chromosomes on metaphase plate. Meiosis II is completed only if the oocyte is fertilized. The leftover granulosa cells of Graafian follicle develops into corpus luteum, which gets degenerated by the end of luteal phase. If fertilization does not occur, the corpus luteum reaches its maximum development about 9 days after ovulation. Subsequently, the corpus luteum shrinks and forms a mass of fibrotic scar tissue called corpus albicans. Simultaneously, progesterone production decreases, and almost on the 14th day, it is shed with blood and mucus in the form of menstrual flow. Luteinizing hormone, which triggers ovulation, stimulates the development of the corpus luteum. But how regulation of such actions is controlled in our body? The hypothalamus responds to changes in the levels of estrogen and progesterone hormones in blood. Now we will discuss the diagrammatic section of ovary, which you usually find in your books.
In a section of an human ovary, we find that the ovaries have two layers of tissue. The medulla, this lies in the center and consists of fibrous tissue, blood vessels and nerves. Both blood and lymph vessels are found in the loose connective tissue. The cortex is that portion which surrounds medulla. It is mainly formed of stroma covered by germinal epithelium. Outer to ovarian cortex and inner to germinal epithelium, there is a weakly developed connective tissue layer called tunica albuginea. It contains ovarian follicles lying at various stages of maturity, each of which contains an ovum. Before puberty, the ovaries are inactive, but the stroma contains primordial follicles, which a female has since her birth. In ovary of a female of a childbearing age, large and mature or almost all mature follicles are found in the cortical layer, out of which one every 28 days matures and releases itself into the fallopian tube. In such ovaries, corpora lutea, the remains of follicles which have burst are also seen. Other large and more or less mature follicles are found embedded in the ovarian stroma. If you look at the structure of an ovum, it is spherical in shape. Its cytoplasm is called ooplasm, containing large nucleus. This nucleus contains a prominent nucleolus. There are no centrioles in the ovum. The cytoplasm is enveloped by the plasma membrane. Very small vesicles called cortical granules are present under the plasma membrane. A narrow perivitelline space is present outside the plasma membrane. Just outer to perivitelline space, there is thick non-cellular zona pellucida, which is secreted by the follicular cells. Outer to the zona pellucida, there is very thick cellular corona radiata. The side of the ovum which contains polar bodies and nucleus is termed the animal pole. The opposite side is called the vegetal pole.
Students, you know that human ovum loses its ability to be fertilized about 24 hours after ovulation. Now, after discussing so much about ovum, let's try to list functions of female reproductive system. Formation of female gametes, that is ovum, by germinal cells of the ovary. Receiving of male gametes, that is sperms, provides suitable environment for fertilization as well as development of fetus. Another important function of female reproductive system is parturition. This is the process of birth of a child. Lactation, that is production of breast milk. This milk provides complete nourishment to newborn baby. Now we have discussed female reproductive system and also its main functions. I hope you are already familiar with male reproductive system and its main function, spermatogenesis. Now let us differentiate briefly oogenesis from spermatogenesis. Differences between spermatogenesis and oogenesis. Oogenesis, that is formation of the ovum, differs from spermatogenesis, which is formation of sperm in several ways. As we know that the gamete formed by spermatogenesis is essentially a motile nucleus, whereas the gamete formed by oogenesis contains all the materials needed to initiate and maintain metabolism and development. Therefore, in addition to forming a haploid nucleus, oogenesis also builds up a store of cytoplasmic enzymes, mRNAs, organelles, and metabolic substrates. While the sperm becomes differentiated for motility, the egg develops a remarkably complex cytoplasm. So this was all about the structure of female reproductive system, including reproductive organs like gonads, reproductive ducts, and accessory structure. Let us summarize what we have learnt about female reproductive system and its functions. There are several ways through which animals can reproduce. The two main methods of reproduction are asexual and sexual. In asexual reproduction, one individual produces offsprings that are genetically identical to itself. Asexual reproduction allows an organism to produce many offspring rapidly. Sexual reproduction is a biological process by which organisms create descendants through the combination of genetic material. This type of reproduction requires cooperation between the male and female for species survival. The basic organs in the human's sexual reproduction are gonads. These gonads produce haploid cells and hormones which are essential for sexual reproduction. System comprising these gonads and many more accessory ducts is known as reproductive system. Female reproductive system is located in pelvic region. The human female reproductive system is composed of a pair of ovaries which produce the female germ cells and female sex hormones. Fallopian tubes for the transfer of ova from ovaries. Vagina for the reception of male gametes. Uterus for the nutrition and development of the fertilized egg. Apart from all above organs, mammary glands are there which help in the nutrition of the newly born individual after birth. Hormone control in oogenesis. The control begins in the hypothalamus, which produces gonadotrophin releasing hormone. GnRH is received by receptors in the anterior pituitary gland, which further responds by releasing follicle stimulating hormone and luteinizing hormone. The female sex hormones influence the primordial follicles to grow and a restructuring to take place. From the primordial follicles, the primary follicles, secondary follicles and tertiary follicles develop in turn. Only a small percentage of the primordial follicles reach the tertiary follicle stage. The great majority meet their end beforehand in the various maturation stages. Gametogenesis is the general process of gamete formation in both males and females. Oogenesis is the process of meiosis in female organisms from an oogonium to a primary oocyte to a secondary oocyte and then to an ovum. If we compare functions performed by male and female reproductive systems, the responsibility of human female for successful reproduction is considerably greater than that of male. I think now you have enough information on the female reproductive system. So let me ask you some questions. I expect that you would be able to answer these. Listen carefully and answer these questions. The first question is a very simple question. Name the male and female gametes produced in human bodies. I know you all are familiar with the answer. Female gamete is known as ovum, whereas male gametes are known as spermatozoa. Also we call it sperm. Next question. Tell me whether sperms and ova are diploid or haploid cells. Yes, you guessed correct. These gametes are haploid because they are formed by meiosis type of cell division. The next question is, what is the location of female reproductive organs? And the answer is, female reproductive organs are located in pelvic region. Next question. Name the 3 layers of wall of uterine cavity. And the answer is perimetrium on outermost side, middle myometrium and endometrium on inner side. My next question is, state important functions of female reproductive system. Answer. Important functions of female reproductive system are formation of female gametes, receiving of male gametes, provide suitable environment for fertilization as well as development of fetus, provides nourishment to newborn through lactation. The next question is, name various parts of fallopian tube present in the female reproductive system. The answer is, beginning of fallopian tube is known as infundibulum. Next part is ampulla, and the last narrow dilated long part is known as isthmus. The next question is, name various parts of external genitalia. And the answer is mons pubis, labia majora, labia minora, hymen and clitoris. The next question is, name the process of release of ovum from ovary. Answer, it is called ovulation. The next question is, this is cross section of an ovary showing ovarian follicles lying at different stages. Primordial follicle, mature Graafian follicle and empty follicle in this diagram. Label them. Answer. Here is primordial follicle. Mature Graafian follicle is that in which the oocyte attains its full size. It looks like this. This is empty follicle. My next question is, what is corpus luteum? The answer is, corpus luteum is the empty Graafian follicle which is formed of follicle lining cells. The next question is, which hormone stimulates the maturation of the follicle? Answer is, maturation of the follicle is stimulated by follicle stimulating hormone from the anterior pituitary gland. The next question is, at birth, a female baby has as many as 2 million follicles. Is it true or false statement? Answer. A female baby has as many as 2 million follicles. Yes, it is true. The next question is, what is gametogenesis? And the answer is, gametogenesis is the process of formation of gametes by sexual reproductive system. It is of two types, spermatogenesis and oogenesis. Spermatogenesis leads to the formation of sperms and oogenesis leads to the formation of ovum. I am confident that all your doubts about the structure and functions of female reproductive system are clear today. I hope today's lesson will help you in fetching good marks in the exam. Thanks for your cooperation and attention. Looking forward to the next class. See you then. Thanks.